Good morning, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how when the narcissist can't get their old supply, realizes you're not coming back. So sometimes you might see a scenario where you have like supply A, and the narcissist might leave supply A and go to supply B because, you know, a lot of times you'll give them everything and you're over there pouring your heart out and giving them more and more and more, and then they still discard you, and or you discard yourself after you just had enough, man. And they go to, say, supply B, and then supply B, they find out real quick, or after a short period of time, you know, they drain them, and a lot of times people can't handle this kind of abuse, so they either get discarded or drain them, and they get bored of them. Typically what will happen is they'll drain them and get bored of them or something, or they'll find out that they're not at all probably what you were. And you know, because a lot of times the empath, yeah, they stay into this stuff too long, and yeah, we were under some sort of spell or something before we wake up. But I'm talking about kind of like the unawoke here, to some degree. Usually you'll wake up at some point, usually during the time of a discard. And so what happens is, you know, we might stay into these things a little bit longer than way longer than we should, but, and some of us decades and stuff. But I guess what I'm getting at is we give them, like, we treat them like a quality person when we shouldn't have. But it's because we have heart, and, you know, we kind of, until we woke up to this, we like to give people a benefit of doubt unless we have, like, the evidence, you know, sometimes has to be in your lap, or it had to be, right, in the past. And, you know, after we wake up to this, we realize that we had let people take our goodness way too far, okay? And when you start to rewind all this and unwind all this, you start to realize that you were highly, and, you know, you were being abused in a major way, and being used in a major way. And a lot of times it was them weaponizing your empathy, when all you wanted to do, and all you were doing was, you were trying to, you know, you didn't go into this, like I said, the spell kind of gets you into helping them out, but you, at the end of the day, you put forth a lot of effort and a hell of a lot of energy into propping them up and making them look good, and helping them to function in a society that they cannot function in without you. You know, and the narcissist tries to flip it on you like you can't handle it without them. You don't need them for anything. But a lot of times what they'll do is they'll cut and run from supply A, they'll run to supply B, and then one of two things will happen. Either supply B, they can't handle that kind of abuse, and they'll cut and run shortly thereafter, or they will get bored with supply B because they ain't got the passion that you have. They ain't got the fruit that you have, and they didn't like to look at people and give them the benefit of the doubt like we did. Now, I'm not saying that we should have, but because we did, we made them feel real, and we made them, you know, we tried to give them some sort of credibility until we had sure evidence that they were doing the things that we thought they were possibly doing. And then when we either got that credibility and discarded ourselves, or we had enough evidence to where we knew that they were screwing everybody in town, and you know, lying 50 times a day to you, then, you know, we discard ourselves. And then they think that they can come back. And that's the thing. A lot of times what happens is an empath will wake up and kind of start to wake up, and a lot of times become a super empath, where they get to a point to where this will never happen again. And if they ever walk themselves into something like this, like early on in the early stages of this, they know that it is a spell that they could be totally, you know, that they broke, and that they know what it does. They know the destruction that it causes. They know that they need to get the hell out of there as quick as they can. And a lot of times that causes a huge narcissist injury to somebody who has spent, you know, a little time with a super empath that leaves them first, you know. And so what you'll find sometimes is the super empath would actually, that had woken up, would sometimes, you know, meet those individuals and stay in it a little while, just so that they can learn some of these ways about them. But I don't suggest that, because that can get you in, if you're not smart enough and you don't know what you're doing, you can get in harm's way. But sometimes the best way to learn a narcissist is to use them as like a test case. When you find out what they are and you're a super empath, then you could walk down that road with them, and you learn pretty much every way about them. And so anyway, when they come back to you, you already have supply A, which would be you. You kind of woke up by then, and then they can't get you back. And what happens is, if they would have just stayed, if their dumbass would have just stayed with you then, they probably would have still had you. Which is a good thing that it happened the way it did, because it got you to wake up. You know, a lot of times the trauma and that pain will get you to wake up. It'll get you to start searching. Sometimes it'll shake you to wake up. And so you got to look at that as a blessing, because I do believe that until you wake up, God will allow these things to happen to you, because God wants you to wake up. But because of the rules of this world system that He's placed in it, you have to go through certain things when you're under generational curses. And until you fulfill the ability of you awakening yourself based on the actions that you choose to make, and how obedient you want to be to God, and that's what leads you to a wake up. And only then. And that's what makes you chosen, really, because, or at least chosen to break the curse. You still need the Lord, you still need salvation to be, you know, saved. And but in this is a very big step in going in the right direction, when you can break this generational curse, because you can look and you can know what pure evil is, and you can know what goodness is, you know, because you guys are usually, I mean, well, you're gonna be on different sides of the spectrum completely. And if there's one area that you're gonna you know, you used to see this in superhero movies, but if there's one way you're gonna be, you guys are, that's gonna be your nemesis, okay? The one that you thought that you could love, that you could rest your head with, is your nemesis, your greatest hater. And so they'll come back to supply A, and they think that you'll be trying to take them with open arms, you know? And you're like, no, it's okay, I'm good. You know? Then they have, like, they just lost two supply sources and a huge narcissist injury. And that can happen a lot of times, because they do this kind of stuff. They make rash decisions thinking that they're always going to be taken back because they're such an amazing individual. They bring nothing to the table. There's nothing inside them but evil, darkness, and curses, and blasphemous actions. And so you would, what did they used to say in the olden days? You'd rather have a hole in your head than be with them. I mean, really. I mean, it's like for somebody to act the way that they act, they should be ashamed of themselves. Really, they're literally, they're, you know what they are? They're this. As soon as their heart stops beating, man, they're going to hell, man, straight to hell. And they're not, what they used to say in like the music, they would be like, I think it was like in reggae or something, they'd be like, we're not stopping for no red lights tonight. But when their heart stops beating, their soul, or whatever you call it, because I don't even know if they have one anymore, but whatever is left in their soul is not stopping for no red lights. It's gonna go to hell just as quick as a bowling ball dropping with zero gravity. And I mean, there is some sadness in that, but a lot of times they put you through so much brutal hell, and for no reason except for that they're just pure evil. And for those out there that think that the narcissist is not dealing with some sort of malevolent spirit, then it's ridiculous that you would even be researching this stuff at all. I mean, because these people are so evil that there's no other way outside of the fact that you start seeing demons on them, okay? Like I have. So by the way, for you guys out there, I'm gonna post that I'm gonna take that off private, that video that y'all wanted to hear some of that stuff I did in the past about seeing demons, man. And it's true. You're not dealing with anything but an extension of the enemy, Satan, and these are his foot soldiers. And they're here to take your light and put it out. And you got to know, if there's a Satan and he's trying to do this to you because you have goodness in your heart, you best know you want to get saved, and you want to know the Lord, and you want to, because you know there's a God if you know there's a Satan. For anybody who doesn't believe in him, I'm telling you, man. And this is it's sad when you think about you know, the time that you invested and who you thought you got to know. But when you understand, and that's part of the reason, like I say this several times, part of the reason I started this channel, because when I started to understand exactly how these individuals think, act, and operate, then there's, you know, the only way to spread awareness is to dissect and help people understand that they're dealing with pure evil. And there's no other way of looking. This is the thing. I have total conviction in my heart when I say this, because I saw it. Okay, I dealt with it. And it's crazy. In fact, I could go over it real quick, what happened. I'm not even going to worry about that other video. Basically, what happened was, I had started to wake up to narcissism. I started to Google bipolar. You know, they say usually wake up by Googling or something. I wasn't Googling, I was YouTubing. I've always liked YouTube. So I was like YouTubing like what bipolar was, because I mean, I had dealt with this so many times through so many love partners. And in my family, it was the same type of stuff. I was starting to catch on that, you know, in the enmeshment is different than the love partner relationship. It's kind of like a new ball that's being dropped on you or in your lap. You know, it's a whole another sort of type of energy, even though it's the same thing. So I started to Google this stuff, and I started on bipolar because they act like bipolars sometimes to some degree. I mean, I don't know bipolar enough, but I do know that they have these, like, you know, kind of, you know, real happy and grandiose type times, and then they have these real, you know, depressive type times, you know, where they're, you know, depressed and angry or whatever. And so when you follow the narcissist, you know, with the hot and cold, you kind of think bipolar. So I started there. Next thing I landed on, I feel like it was like Dr. Romney or something. But anyway, I was listening to her or something like that, and I was starting to try to figure out what I was dealing with. And because they all run on the tracks of demons or whatever, then I started to see that, you know, of course we all say, oh, your narcissist was just like mine, you know, because they're on tracks. But so then after, you know, a few weeks or something, it hit me one day that we had gotten a lot of arguments where I was like, yo, I think that a lot of these arguments we got into were so heavy, man. They were heavy. They were like spiritual heavy. And I was like, it hit me like my intuition, my inner man was saying, my inner voice was saying, am I dealing with a demon in a meat suit? That's what came to mind. And so I couldn't grab my phone fast enough. And we had, you know, been on an off time for a cycle that we were off or whatever, you know, because I had always discarded her. Because at that point I was catching on. And so I started Googling demons and narcissism, and you know, all this psychological stuff was all pulling up before, right? Because I was typing in narcissism. But when you type in demons and narcissism, a whole nother slew of crap pops up, you know, like people that have actually dealt with this and people that had channels talking on this, and all of the people that have seen faces and everything. So right away I had landed on this guy's name is Denzimus, and, you know, right away I was like listening to a lot of his material, because his material was like, I was starting to realize, you know, that, you know, the tracks that he was speaking on were like very similar to the tracks that I had dealt with too. So I was like, you know, this is pretty good stuff, you know. I was like, you know, how can that be possible? And so I had landed on this one video that I had watched from him, and he had talked about how somebody had been following him around, but he didn't really necessarily say it was like his ex-narcissist, but it was just somebody. This is what I remember. I don't even think I can find the video anymore. It's kind of weird. But anyway, and he said that he got on the bus, and this guy got on the bus with him, or I don't know if it was a man or a woman. But I feel like that what I had heard him say, there was like 3 or so different rules or things that he went over. It was kind of weird. It was like, and I don't know how he came to this this understanding or whatever, or if it's even whatever true or not. But I mean, or if you need to have these things to happen. But he said that basically that he had been watching them. They had been, you know, like watching him, following him around. He got on the bus. They got on the bus. They were at different areas, sides of the bus or whatever. He was like in the front. They were in the back. And then all of a sudden, like, it's like his eyes got real big, you know, kind of like, you know, when they get big, like they come out, they bulge out of the face, and they come way out here on a cartoon, and then they would just spin around. And so he was like, that's what happened. You know, they came out, they spun around, and the lips got real big and bubbly. And that's kind of what happened. But he said that when it would happen is like you'd have to catch them at an angle. So kind of like if I'm on one side of the street and you're on the other side of the street, and you're farther up ahead of me, like walking or something, then that would be like an angle, okay? It wouldn't even have to be that great of an angle, it doesn't seem like. But anyway, so just to give you an idea, that was one of the rules, or one of the things that would have to be. The next thing was, I remember him saying something about you'd have to catch their eyesight before they catch yours, and it would have to be out in public. It couldn't be, like, for instance, in a house, in your house or something, in a private location. I guess, I don't know if the energy is different or what. I don't know why he said those things, but that's what I remember, and I don't want to speak for him. But so the next thing was, like, I'd realized I was dealing with narcissism, and then the next thing was we'd been broke up, and so I was out and about in a location that we had both frequented, and so I was looking down at the ground, and I was looking kind of ahead of me, like kind of far ahead of me, and I was looking, on the other side of the street or whatever. And I had caught I was looking, and I had caught her shoes, and then I was like, I had realized that, something looked familiar about this person's, their body or whatever. I don't know. I was like, you start at someone's shoes when you're looking down, and you you gradually move your eyes up, and that's kind of what happened. And so then I realized, oh, this is her. This is my ex, and she just happened to be coming the opposite way with our friend. And so I looked all the way up till I got her eyeballs, and then I caught her. I mean, it was like an angle, I was like on the other side of the street or whatever. And then I caught her eyes before she caught mine. And then when she locked her eyes on mine, then time stood still. Okay. And it was out in public. It was a public place, And so all of those three things pertain to me. It was just a few days after I watched this video. And this is something you just can't ordain. It's crazy how I had just watched it, and then 4 or 5 days later, maybe, I kind of think everything that he had talked about was believable, okay? Because he was talking about tracks that they, work off of. And so I was like, whoa, man, everything that I heard from him was spot on to what I had been dealing with. So then what happened was I started to, when I heard that last video, I believed it because everything else had pertained. And I had proof of it because I dealt with the same stuff. Okay, so I do believe that this kind of stuff, you need to have faith. If you don't have faith that this kind of stuff is out here, then it will never show itself. And I'm not saying that you need to or want to. I didn't even feel like I wanted to see it. I don't know, because God knows your innermost being. But I'll tell you this, if you would have asked me what I'd seen the day before even, and what I would feel like if I saw something like that, I would probably tell you I'd be scared to death. But I'm not scared of that stuff. And I'm not scared of it anymore. And I just know that, like, God prepared me to see it, and they have absolutely no power over you when you know the Lord and you have Christ in your heart, man. And that's all I can say. You're sealed, and you just got to be careful, like, not to continue to mingle with it. I mean, it can't get in you ever if you have Christ, but it can get at you from the outside. So that's what I'm talking about. But anyway, so this is what happened. So I had caught her eyes before she caught mine. When she locked on mine, time stood still, and then the first thing that happened was the forehead came down like this, and then the eyes locked in on me. Bam. And then basically what happened was the time stood still. It was just me and her. I mean, everybody else was around, but it was as if they weren't there. And basically her face came off, and I could see the profile, right? Like the outer profile, like the design of the outer part of the face. And then the inner part, it just got inky black. And then her eyes turned golden eyes. And they were going back and forth, back and forth. They would look at me and then go back and forth, look at me, go back and forth, back and forth. Did that like 7 or 8 times. And then the next thing you know is her face came back on, and it did the same thing as what he said. The eyes came out, boom, like real far. They got huge, just like cartoon eyes, like both of them at the same time, boom. And then they started spinning around like that. And then the lips, they got huge, and they were bubbling over like, I remember making that sound like that. It was almost like fat, like volcanic fatty lips just bubbling over, and huge, just boom, boom. I don't even know what it means. I feel like there's a spiritual component, that there's something that it means in the spirit realm, but I don't know. I just know that they lie a lot and talk a lot of bull. But anyway, the next thing that happened was her face came back, and then, or from there, or her face came back, or from there, and then it turned into that 90s Scream mask from, with Drew Barrymore. They had Scream 1, 2, and 3, and then the Wayans brothers did like that spoof or whatever. It looked just like that white and black mask that's melting. It looks like it's halfway melting. It melted off of her face just like that. And then if you could picture a flag going like 100 miles an hour on a flagpole, like in a hurricane, it flew off her face like that. like that, and it just ripped into like nothing. Okay, and then there was like kind of like a cloud, and it was like, I don't know, it was just like, it was like, you know, kind of everything was coming back to. And then she just walked right by me, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I shook my head like that, like I'm disgusted with you. I wasn't scared or anything. And then I looked down at my phone. I didn't know what to do because I was still, it took me a long time to process that. And I walked away. And it took me several days to really process that fully. And then after that, I had people following me around, and everywhere I went, and they'd be staring a straight hole through me. No blink. I mean, my friends would be with me. I would go anywhere, to the store, to a restaurant, to the gym. It didn't matter. I had somebody, it was like this familiar spirit jumping from one person to another, just like that movie Fallen with Denzel Washington. And it's staring a hole through me. Just staring like this. I mean, it was unbelievable. It's like a movie. And I'm not lying. This is exactly what happened. And then I got a little scared because I started to look up gang stalking, and then I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if they could see through my mirror in my house and through my TV. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was scared about that. And next thing I did, I got Ephesians 6:12 tattooed on my arm, y'all. And then after about a 3 weeks to a month of that, I saw one other person that their head tilted down. I don't know why the forehead would tilt down first, and they would scrunch their eyes, and then I would see their eyes right here. They would get golden. And that happened one other time from one of the other gang stalkers, almost as if that I was going to unmask them too. But it didn't happen. It just like halfway happened. And again, I caught that individual from the side as well. And I don't know if it's because that's where the mask comes off, right here. So I had ripped it off. I don't know what happened. But it's kind of weird because when people talk about the mask slip or I unmasked, I call what they do as a mask slip. But what I had happen was an unmask, like literally. I saw this stuff physically, and it was spirit. And the thing is you can tell these people 100 times that they're demon possessed, and they need help or they need deliverance or something, and they don't say shit. I told her 100 times, and the only thing she said is, after about the 100 times, she said, "Are you saying I have a spiritual issue?" I mean, I'm telling you, I don't even know if they're in there anymore. But I'm gonna post this for y'all, and I just don't like, having it online too much because it's kind of freaky. But anyway, I love y'all. Give me a like, subscription, thumbs up. This is for like Dig Dug and all them that asked. Thanks, y'all. Peace.